job. I am not your typical painter. Today it's going to be kind of a different video. I'm going to be talking about a few tips of mine. Where did I gain the knowledge of these tips? I don't know. Probably a combination of school, other artists, and probably my own personal experience. So these tips might be new to you, or they might be old news. Regardless, I'm going to share them, and hopefully they are helpful for you in the long run. Tip number 1, I recycle my cleaning solution. So once in a while, what I do is I actually empty my solution into kind of a container like this. I get as much of it out as possible. Store it away where the paint is settled and the solution will rise. And then this right here is my recycled batch where I pour it afterwards. Right now, I'm actually going to use it. And after some time, the liquid actually goes towards the top and the paint drops to the bottom. And in the end, I'm going to transfer pretty much that stuff into here and reuse it, and the cycle will continue. Tip number 2, I use a nice big size glass surface as a palette. Why? Because I feel this is the best material for mixing colors and also for ease of cleansiness. Now, the reason why, again, I use a glass surface is because it's very easy to clean when time to start a new batch of color and resume your work. How do I do it? Well, I use some paint thinner. I pour some. Very careful not to spill it with a palette knife. I kind of spread it around. By the way, this is pretty dry stuff, as you see my finger. But paint thinner will make it a lot easier to remove. If you need to, pour some more. And the final touch is get a rag and wipe the remainder off. Now you have a clean surface to resume work. But an even easier way to clean a palette is don't be lazy. At the end of the day, instead of let it dry, pour some paint thinner before the paint dries and just wipe it like that. Tip number 3, I save my paints. And there's a reason why, because you sometimes spend a lot of time mixing them and it really does suck if they dry. So what better way to save them than by putting them under a deep freeze? How I save my colors. I get a airlock palette like this. When I mix colors, I save them actually. Today, I'm going to work in a particular section and I'm going to remove those particular colors out. I like this because it gives me a lot of different compartments to store color. You could tell from the colors I'm removing. I'm going to be working in an area of lots of greenery. And when I'm done painting, what I do is put the paint right back. I'm not going to bore you by filming that portion. I put the lid back on. Then, as mentioned earlier, I put my paint in a deep freeze. Tip number 4. Well, first off, I use an assortment of tools like these knives and paintbrushes. But there's one more tool I use, and I use it when I have rough texture in a painting. And what I mean by rough texture is I might have done too thick of a layer of paint and I want to thin it out. And why would I want to thin it out? Well, obviously sometimes you don't want it to be rough when you paint over it. And when the paint's dry, you might think you have no choice, but you do. Sometimes you have pesky texture that is like kind of in the way of your painting because you don't want it there. It's hard to tell, but this protrudes just a little too much. So what do? I use some sandpaper. I usually cut little pieces, smooth out the texture. I gently sandpaper the area. And my last tip of the day, and I do have more, but tip number 5, removing a dent in your canvas. You can't really see it. There's a dent in this canvas, and part of the reason is when I paint, in order to get like some good detail, sometimes I place my pinky on the side. I've seen other people do it and gently paint so I can brace my strokes so I can be as accurate as possible. But I do that without worrying about the dent. Why? I'm going to show you. With some hot water and a sprayer, I spray hot water on the back of the canvas. A good spray, and then overnight, or in a few hours actually, this will be as tight as a drum. And maybe it was less visible because this is something I constantly do. I don't wait till there's a big like punch in the canvas. I always fix whenever I get a chance. And keep in mind that the indentation, it took a night to pretty much settle. It wasn't instantly. And hot water always does the trick. Anyhow, if you made it to the end, thank you for watching. Again, my name is Charles Bose. I go by Bob. I am not your typical painter. And hopefully my tips could help you. Thanks for watching.